And I don't know why the speaker is not working.
The lights on.
Oh,
So-
there we go. Yay. Okay, it just worked. Okay.
Well, I thought the law was we have to three and three.
I'm sorry.
I thought if somebody else.
It's not the law. Is that what the
Yes.
law says?
Yes,
So we don't have a quorum?
then we cancel the meeting.
Because I think Maria-Elena is,
Yeah, she's right there. So
But I hope
Bennett's
that-
not coming?
I don't know.
Can you talk to Maria and ask if Bennett's
Oh, yeah.
planning on appearing?
Okay.
Never mind.
All right, so you got four.
Behind-
Okay.
Behind the hat.
Okay.
How are you?
Well, I think more.
They can't complain that you're not transparent. So they.
Is that Robin?
Hopefully Hello? Yeah. Can you hear me in the back? Can you hear me in the front? Does anybody hear me? I hear you. Yes, because that was the first ejection case. That came out when the law stuff was brought out. I thought it was a big T. Oh, no. No. No, both sides are crossed off. Somebody got it.
Hello? I think they all work now, dude.
So it's. Good evening, everybody. This is Laura Rickey. I am deputy supervisor. Supervisor Bill McKenna is unable to be here tonight, so I am running the meeting tonight. We have a blank piece of paper for public be heard. If you're interested in signing up, you're welcome to do so. And the main topic today is, oh, you look like you're online for.
No, he's. Oh, you got it? Thank you.
Thanks, Jen, and thanks, Jen. So we have the Ontario School Board here to talk about the 25-26 budget. There's a big vote coming up. And so we wanted to learn more about that, and important for them to come tell us more about that. We had hoped to have a noise ordinance public hearing and a tree law public hearing this evening, but these are both important topics to have a full board here. And so the plan is to postpone those public hearing topics, or the public hearings for those two topics, until the first meeting in June, which I think is the 10th. So that is the plan on that. And so we do have 3 quick resolutions we'll do, and then the town board can, not the town board, sorry, the Ontario We have somebody from the Ontario board and the Ontario offices here to talk about that. So we'll go through the resolutions quickly. Be it resolved to hire Caitlin Hoban as a full-time police officer effective May 14th, 2025, at the hourly rate of $29.13.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Did you get that, Jackie?
Hire Carl Anderson as a full-time police officer effective May 14th, 2025, at the hourly rate of $29.13.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And both officers have been full-time but temporary. That's how the police department does things often, is brings people in temporary. They've been doing a great job. They've been on board for quite a while. And this is a nice move. The next item, be it resolved to hire Scott Peters as an HMEO to the Highway Department grade 4.5, $31.43, starting May 13th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I think we're good on those things, and Scott is somebody who years ago worked for the highway department, has been in the private sector, coming back, has tons of experience and abilities, so that's a win-win. That's it for resolutions.
I just wanted to note that Maria-Elena is on.
But I was gonna tell, and she said
Yeah,
aye.
I heard that. Yes, I heard her responses, yes. Okay, so if the Ontario representatives would like to come on up. And the microphone is by Melanie. Well, we have a Zoom mic.
Well, yeah, but they can use the wireless or the wired mic, either one.
So, yeah, what happens is we're.
It's working, test it, just give it.
So what we do is we have. But they just use. The quarter one always works.
Yes. So good evening, thank you so much for hosting us here this evening. We look forward to this every year. I'm Victoria McLaren, Superintendent of Schools, and this is Monica McLaren, the Assistant Superintendent for Business. And I'm gonna let her start talking about budgets. To the roll.
Thank you very much. So our 25-26 proposed budget is going to be $63,550,000. A little over a $1.2 million increase over the current 24-25 budget at $62,325,500, or just over 2.03%. We're also looking to appropriate a little over $2.5 million to help reduce the tax levy and to balance the budget. So on slide 2, you can see, or sorry, slide 3, you can see the budget highlights. We are going to be continuing the replacement of technology, continuing with our active learning spaces, our after-school homework help, and our extracurricular opportunities. I will say that we've been able to do this. It has been since COVID funded through the American Rescue Plan. So we had grants that funded many of these programs. Those grants now are gone. However, we have been able to roll them into our regular budget and to continue them for our students. We are working on a multi-tiered system of support process for our students, and multi-sensory reading, math training for staff, continued professional learning in math, literacy, and science. We're bringing back the Summer Skills Academy this summer that we did not have last year because of construction. And we're also continuing to fund mental health support for our students through ASTER, parent training and support at Morningside. And that is also something that had originally been funded through the American Rescue Plan grant funds, and now it's being funded through the school district's budget. So the proposed 25-26 tax levy, in order to support all of our programs, is going to be $49,402,800, which is a 2% increase over the current levy of $48,434,118. I will say that it is below the tax levy limit formula, which actually came in at 2.99% for Ontario this year. So we're very proud of the fact that we've been able to, since the tax levy has been in existence, with tax changes, the prior years, as you can see for 24-25 and 25-26, even though the consumer price index CPI was over 4%, and sometimes even much higher than 4%, that we still have been able to bring in a tax levy at less than that. And slide 6, what we do when we visit the various towns is to show the tax rates, tax assessments, historical assessments for each of the towns. So this is specifically for Woodstock. Understanding this is for the Ontario homes in the town of Woodstock, because you could also live in Woodstock and be in the Kingston School District and in the Saugus School District. But if you're in the Ontario district, currently for 24-25, you actually saw a slight reduction in your tax rate. And if you notice the prior year, you saw a large increase. What's happening is because we are 5 towns that make up the Ontario district, you're gonna say things, aren't you? Oh, please forget that. I think it's Lexington, I forget. I'm sorry, those Green County Lexington people. It's not personal, I promise. Because we are 6 towns in one school district, and they all have different assessments and different values. What the Office of Real Property does is if towns don't keep up with a assessment for homes in their towns, Office of Real Property will come in and say, okay, yes, that your house might be assessed at 200, but it's actually worth 300 because the home in Olive may have 100% assessment and a $300,000 house is worth $300,000. So it's a way to equalize all of the homes in the entire district. Woodstock's equalization rate right now is at 46.5%, which basically means that if your house is assessed at 200,000, it's actually worth, it's actually valued at more than like 400,000. So that's why tax rates will vary by town, and the changes will also vary greatly by town. So slide 7 shows us where the are in the school district. As you can see, a majority of it is instruction and benefits. We did split the employee benefits package with retirees because as we know, living long, and they are becoming a larger part of our budget. In addition, we have a 3-part budget, which shows that the majority of our budget is we're paying for programs, which is kind of a good thing. You know, that's pretty much our job. We do have 9.93% of our budget in capital, and that's our buildings, our debts. So we don't have any debt, it's our BOCES debt. And then administrative is not just administrators per se, but it is also legal fees, insurance, and BOCES administrative costs as well. So on the ballot for Proposition 1, you will see a budget for $63,588,660, which also will include $20,000 to help support the public libraries in our district. Should the budget fail on May 20th, the district has the option of either resubmitting the same budget, a different budget, or a contingency budget. If we do go for a second vote, it will be held June 17th of 2025. That is every school district in New York State. If they have to go for a second vote, it would be on that day. If the budget is defeated a second time, then the district would be required to go to a contingency budget. And what that means is that the tax levy for 25-26 cannot be any greater than the tax levy was for 24-25. So we would need to find another $968,000 of reductions. In addition, we would not be able to purchase any equipment. There is $225,000 of equipment in the recommended budget. There is also an administrative component cap, so that percentage that you saw that was administrative, if it were say 10% this year and it's supposed to be 10.2% next year, it cannot be higher than the 10% this year. We would also have to charge fees for use of our facilities for many of the non-for-profits that we currently don't charge. Now, ballot Proposition 2 is the proposition that would authorize the construction of $70.5 million project that would use up to $15 million of cash capital reserves that the district has and allow the district to borrow up to not to exceed amount of $55.5 million. And I will have Superintendent McLaren discuss a little bit about that.
So we wanted to provide some key takeaways about Proposition 2 before we got into the details of the scope. The first and most important point that we would like to stress is that we got to this place after a number of community forums and visioning sessions. We had wonderful conversations and design discussions. Our architects participated in these conversations with our community. And what we believe we have created is a really wonderful community asset. This central campus will provide an equitable and robust instructional program for all of our students. And it really will be a holistic K-12 community for the young people of this district. We want to ensure that everybody understands one of the things that this will prevent is that we were faced last year with a shocking news from the governor that said she was looking at foundation aid. And she wanted to reduce foundation aid to all the districts of New York State that are considered wealthy and overfunded. And we are pretty high on that list. So she was proposing to reduce our foundation aid by $6 million last year. Thankfully, the method that she chose, which was to just spring it on everybody, was basically rejected by all of the citizens of the state who spoke to their representatives. So she rolled that back last year, but commissioned a study by the Rockefeller Institute to look at the foundation aid formula. And she made a couple of changes this year that were very minor, but she kept us in a hold harmless position as we have been previously. But we understand that this is an area of focus for her. She is looking to make these adjustments in the future. Last year, we were overfunded by $6 million. This year, this year we have been calculated to be overfunded by $7.3 million. Sorry. So, although this wasn't part of the conversation when the board passed the resolution in 2023 to work towards a central campus, it is very much a part of our consciousness now and our conversation. And what we want to avoid is being in a position where we lose that significant level of funding and are forced to centralize and consolidate without having created this wonderful central campus that we have the opportunity to create right now. And the most important point for a lot of people is how will it impact me personally and my tax bill? And because of the efficiencies that we can gain by centralizing, we can basically make this a tax neutral project. So this will not impact individual taxpayers in their tax bills. The next couple slides talk about scope, which I think is so exciting. We would be adding classrooms onto the elementary school in Boyceville. We would be expanding the library, adding office spaces, adding bathrooms. There would be bathrooms added on the outside of the building near the athletic field, so that when there are athletic events happening, people don't necessarily have to use porta potties. They could use a real indoor bathroom, which would be lovely. We would be adding an intentionally designed security vestibule, which is so important in this day and age. We do lock our doors. We have very strict security protocols, but our building is our building. To add an intentionally designed security vestibule would make it so much safer for us. It would be redirecting traffic, creating new drop-off lanes so that traffic then would not interfere with students who could be out in front of the building or up behind the building playing on the playground. It would add a new gymnasium because the gymnasium in the building is very small, and we are constantly looking for space for across the district to utilize, and this is sized appropriately for our secondary students. It can also be used by our community with a separate entrance so that if community members are using the gymnasium, they don't need to go through the building to get to it. Replacement of windows in that building, although it's a lovely old building, the windows are very old and very efficient. So this project proposes to replace the windows. Renovating and adding a room, renovating the two that exist that are kind of oddly shaped for original design. This would add square footage to each of the two that exists and add a third so that we could potentially have a dedicated band, orchestra, and chorus room. And that having those rooms there will help to create such a more robust music program. And I know that our music faculty is very excited by that potential. We would look to reconfigure the cafeteria and kitchen to provide better, more serving line space so that kids could get through the serving line quicker and spend more time together. And reconfiguring an outdoor space that would attach to the cafeteria so that in the nice weather, our elementary students can eat outside and enjoy the outdoors in this beautiful place that we live, just like their older peers in the secondary school who have a lovely outdoor space to eat in. And then there's money in there for things that are not as exciting, but it's also very needed. Drainage, electrical, boiler, fuel tank removal. And then for the work that is proposed for the secondary building, we would look to renovate our high school classrooms. We did renovate one a number of years ago because we had a grant and it only managed to cover one. It didn't even manage to cover it. We still had to fund much of it, but only address one. So we want to look to address all of them because our students really deserve state-of-the-art science labs and classrooms where they can attend to their studies, those who are scientifically minded and those who might be if they are inspired with the right environment. We're looking to renovate the counseling center where what I used to term guidance counselors, but now our school counselors reside to make that more of a wellness suite and make it very welcoming for our students who need whatever type of help they might require from our counselors. Renovate the main office because that no longer functions the way the high school main office used to function. There used to be like 5 typists and secretaries in the main office and they were the hub. And now they are out in different areas of the building, and that space is really inefficient and underutilized. Requested that we create dedicated spaces for them, smaller offices or smaller meeting rooms so that they could have private conversations, talk about learn about student achievement, attend CSE meetings, and have the privacy that they don't have in their classrooms. Renovating the nurses' offices so that they are appropriate medical offices and doing a minor renovation on our auditorium, which we also renovated, I think, in about 2007. Looked really fabulous back then. It's starting to look a little dated and we want to provide the best performance space for our students that we can, so that needs a refurbishing. We're looking to take our multi-use athletic field and redo the surface of it so that it is more accessible for all of the seasons and not dependent on good weather and mowing. Upgrading the track, we had resurfaced it probably about 10 years ago, but that was just a top coat resurface. It needs to be redone. And adding field lights to that field so that students can practice later in the day, community use can happen later in the day. Those members who like to walk the track in late October, early November, if the weather is participating and amenable to that, it won't be dark. And walk the track and enjoy the beautiful surroundings. For additional field drainage for our other athletic fields, because that is certainly not our athletic field, and the others do need some additional work. Demolition of the bus garage and basically redoing of that entire parking and traffic pattern on that side of the building to make it much safer. This summer, we are adding a security vestibule to the middle high school. The voters have already approved that. So that's going to be a wonderful enhancement to that building, but the traffic pattern is deplorable. And last but not least, something that also came out of our community visioning sessions and design work is to add a student commons. And if you're familiar with the Boyceville campus, the secondary school is here and the elementary school is kind of up a little bit higher. There's a little bit of green space back there. And it's on a hill, so it's not very usable. So the architects, based on some of our community input, designed a student commons with a walking path that will connect the 2 buildings. So it really makes it one K-12 holistic campus and provides outdoor space for our students to be in, potentially even learning.
And as you can see then on slide 15, what the budget summary is. So we are looking at about $58.5 million for construction, 11.7 for incidentals, totaling 70.5 million. I will tell you that we did have worked very closely with our construction managers and estimators because we aren't thinking, and this project is not supposed to start until 2027. We're in 2025, and as you know, inflation, tariffs, all that stuff. So there are contingencies built into this project because we cannot exceed that 70 million. So unlike people who maybe build a house of their own, you take a loan from the bank, the builder's like, ooh, forgot to add this to the plan, and I need another $10,000. You can maybe do that in your own home. We cannot do that with a school construction project. So the 70 million would come, as we said, from $50 million of capital reserve and cash that we have on hand, and then financing the 55.5 million. And so the next slide shows you kind of the financial piece of this. And I apologize, I know it's kind of difficult to read. All of these slides are also on the Optimizing Onto Our website, in addition to kind of mock-ups of the inspiration for a lot of the things that we talked about, the gymnasium, the cafeteria, the science classroom. So if you're inspired to take a look. So what this shows is total debt payments. It shows what we would receive in state aid. So school districts receive a separate pot of money from the state that's called building aid. It's an expense-driven aid, so it's not tied to foundation aid. It's a completely different pot of money. For every dollar we spend in a capital project, 31% of it comes back to us in building aid, and the 31% comes off the entire project. So the entire 70 million would get building aid, but our debt payment is only on the 55.5 million. So if you look at the next page, you can see where it says estimated local shares. As we're going down the years, it becomes a negative number. And what that's saying is that the savings that we're getting from consolidation is actually greater than our annual debt payment because what we're saving grows every year. Because our expenses grow every year, but the debt payment is stable. It's the debt payment every year. So just in summary, how it works is during the initial building process, we would do bond anticipation notes, so similar to maybe like a line of credit if you're building. You're only taking it out if you need it, so that you're paying interest until the project's completed. Then we kind of roll everything together and we go out for a bond. The financial advisor estimated about 4.15%. She thinks that might actually be a little high. Interest rates, they're already talking about at least 2 cuts this year at the Fed rate. And we're also rated by Moody's as an AA2, which was one of the highest bond ratings that you can get. So we're very highly rated for bonds. So if you look at the third bullet, the annual debt service payment averages 3.9 million. The annual building aid we receive averages 1.3 million. And our average projected savings from consolidation is 3 million. So as you can see, between the savings and the building aid is actually more than our average debt service payment. And that is why we are able to say that the projected annual tax impact for this project is 0. As for a post-vote timeline, if the project passes on May 20th, we would take an entire year to design this project, because we want to design it right. We want to make sure that we include the community. We want to make sure we include the faculty, the staff, the students. I had a student come to me yesterday and say, what color are the windows going to be that you're going to replace? Like, I don't know, what color would you like? She goes, lavender. I'm like, oh, wouldn't that be pretty? We also got a request for a food truck, a Chipotle food truck. So I'm gonna see what I can do, because I like Chipotle too, and see what I can do about that. So after the year of designing, we would send all the plans up to the state education department. They would need to approve it, and they approve everything. They make sure that we have enough fire.
the election for 2 board trustee seats. Both of them have full 3-year terms, from July 1st, 25 to June 30th of 28. There will be 3 candidates who appear on the ballot: Daniel Aliberte, Jimmy Jarrett, and Laura Smith. We have 2 of the candidates here in the audience, so if anybody wants to meet them after, feel free to. Or, there will be a Meet the Candidates night at the Middle High School on May 15th. That would be 2 days from now at 6 p.m. The event will be moderated by the League of Women Voters. And if you cannot join us for that evening, worry not. It will be live streamed and it will be recorded. So if you have time and you want to get to know the candidates, please tune into that or watch it afterwards. So again, the vote is on Tuesday, May 20th from 2 to 9 p.m. at Bennett and Woodstock. It is still reasonable to get an early mail ballot and vote early. If you have an application, which are available on our website, or if you stop by central administration, the district clerk can give you an application and then process your application and get your ballot to you. Your ballot needs to be back to us in central administration by 5 o'clock on May 20th for your vote to count. So everybody, please vote.
Victoria, can
I just
ask you a question? What determines an eligible voter?
Okay, so I know it's 18 years of age. I believe it's 30 days in the district.
Okay.
If you come to vote and you are not registered with the county, you can do what we call a affidavit ballot. Those that go to the county and the county confirms that it's an eligible vote and will be counted then.
So that's a different voter list than what you would have for the regular election.
No, we have the regular voter. So if you're registered to vote in the general election, you're registered to vote.
Okay.
So this is only for people that are not registered to vote. If they moved in 30 days ago, haven't registered yet, they can still vote. They would do it by affidavit ballot.
So I will ask if the board has any questions for Dawn. I mean, I do.
Can you make sure that mic is on, Laura?
Oh, the mic is not on?
I don't know.
Is it on now?
There should be a green light with the number 3 or 4 in that little.
No, that wasn't on.
Technology. Oh, ooh, okay. So, yeah, yes, so I had some questions, but I didn't, think the board wanted to go first. You have
I
a
have
question?
questions, actually. Thank you very much.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, but go ahead.
I am, as a matter of fact. So 2 questions. One is you have the budget vote, second budget vote if necessary. So you have 2 budgets, however, you have Proposition 1 and Proposition 2. So which budget, do both of them need to pass? Otherwise you need a second vote, or is Proposition 1 the one that needs to pass? And you need a second vote?
Proposition 1 is the budget vote, so that's the one that would need to pass. Otherwise, the second vote date is on June 17th.
Okay, on Proposition 1. I had a question early on in the presentation, and you talk about the increase in the budget of 1.2 million, but the tax levy is only going up by 1 million. So the other 200,000, where are you getting the money from for that?
There is other revenue. So we have received a 2% increase in our foundation aid. That helped. And then we've also, were able to increase our budget for interest income because interest rates are still much higher than they were quite a few years ago.
Oh, okay. And then the other thing, and I appreciate you being, going into the detail about ballot Proposition 2, if passed, makes the consolidation happier because students will be in a nicer school. But it sounds like a budget Proposition 2 does not get passed. You're not predicting what consolidation will happen anyway. I mean, you're not really talking about consolidation with this vote. So, you want to like that? Recorded like this.
So if Proposition 2 does not pass, There will be exit polls at the polling places. The board will review the exit poll data and determine how to move forward. Proposition 2 not passing does not mean that centralization does not happen. It means we have more work to do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate you being here. Thank you for being very detailed in your presentations. I appreciate that as well. How many dollars of ARP funds did we have to replace?
3 million.
So there was $3 million in ARP funds that we're paying for, and that money is coming from where?
So it's coming from, so instead of coming from a grant, we were able to build it into the budget. Yeah, I know we're up, Superintendent McLaren's comment, yeah, it was not everything. So we did actually have a additional social worker that was paid for the grant that we no longer have. Well, but you want to talk? No, just kidding. So in addition to those things, there were a lot of other things that we did with this money that were more one-time things. So we did a generator at the high school. So that way it's something that we did with grant money, but is not something that's continually needing to be paid for. These were mostly the nice things that we could do that we were able to continue to do because we thought we were so valuable.
Could you follow up with me later and provide me the historical assessment tax rate for all of the towns? So, yeah, I'd like to just see like, not just what Woodstock is, but as the community where we are. There's $200,000 in equipment. Could you talk about that?
Okay, so we are looking to purchase a small bus. We are looking to purchase a pickup plow or something for the facilities department. And an ultra-terrain vehicle for the facilities department to get through all of our property. And I believe there was one other thing that I can't remember, but it is, if you go to our website, the budget, there's all the budget presentations that we've done throughout the year since January. Are on there and all.
So you have an architect for this an idea of what you want, but you haven't the contractors or the building people or those could all come locally.
Correct.
And contractors locally will be able to bid on those things. And that'll bring money into the community, right? This is not just, it's not somebody's gonna come and do something from outside. Of course, there's bound to be a consultant something. But this is could you talk to me about the timeline of how many like different contractors this would be or things you haven't thought about?
So we are required to have 5 different contractors: a general construction contractor, a plumbing contractor, an electrical contractor, an HVAC contractor. Which one am I missing? Construction, maybe construction. So how it generally works, and again, it's different for every project. So for example, we're doing a project this summer. We actually do have, we have a local contractor, Kingston Equipment something. I don't remember the title, I apologize to them now. So how it generally works, you do put it out to bid and you get one, but then they hire subs, and most of the subs that they hire are local people. And that's what we've seen historically in our projects, and that's what we will continue to see.
All right, one final question. I received this email newsletter from the Hudson Valley One and the Woodstock Times. It says Good afternoon, Woodstock, yes or no? In addition to the 2026 school year budget, voters will determine the fate of the Woodstock Elementary School on Tuesday, May 20th. Is this correct? Is that what this vote is about?
Unfortunately, no, that is a bit misleading. This vote is about the construction surrounding the creation of a central campus. This vote is not to determine the fate of Woodstock Elementary School. Voting no on the proposition does not necessarily mean that Woodstock Elementary School will stay open.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, I always have one more and I'll hand to you. So so the school board did already vote, however, to consolidate, correct? So this vote doesn't change that. The school board already did vote to consolidate. Okay, just wanted to make that clear. And I did have one more question for hand the mic to anyone. And that is, you do mention in Proposition 1 that you include $20,000 to support public library. Is that perhaps specifically the Woodstock Public Library?
It's an allocated amount that gets split among all of the public libraries within the Ontario Central School District. It was first put in place decades ago by a referendum that went to all of the residents of the Ontario Central School District, and it actually delineates exactly how much goes to each of those libraries, and we collect that money every year as part of our tax collection, and then we give those libraries a check, and they depend on that for their budgets.
Yeah, how many libraries, how many public
I
libraries?
believe there's 4.
Oh, I did work.
Thank you again. So, if I go home and blow up the numbers, can I follow up with one or both? Okay, all right, thank you. Because I can't ask anything at this minute, because I can't see it that well. My second question is, are you in a position to talk a little bit more about the exit poll? So you mentioned an exit poll.
We don't have the exit poll finalized yet, but there will be an exit poll at both polling places, and there will be multiple devices at each polling place so that we can hopefully gather as much information as possible from everyone who votes.
It will be anonymous, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Maria-Elena, I know is on Zoom. Melanie, can you ask Maria-Elena if she has any questions?
Melanie, I
I'm
don't
sure
have
she just heard you
question.
ask that.
Can you hear me, Melanie?
She said she doesn't have.
Yeah, I don't,
Yes.
it's already been answered.
And I guess but I do see a hand raised. We'll spend a couple of minutes. Isn't publicly heard, so we might not catch everybody. But I see, Rachel, I see.
First,
Urena.
I was second.
Who is first?
Urena.
Okay, go ahead, Urena. I don't want to.
You can come up here and speak right here by this,
Oh, that's good. Yeah, if you speak there, the Zoom mic is over there.
Yeah.
There.
just right here. You can stand right here.
It was consolidated previously, the vote to close Woodstock Elementary. And then also this plan to unify this unicampus. But if you're building 10 more classes, it sounds like those things aren't independently separated. They're connected in your bigger plan. To close Woodstock, we'll close Phoenicia, then close Woodstock, then make more classrooms, all this $70 million to put those kids into, correct?
So this project is one centralized campus that will be a real asset to our community, but keeping in mind that within the past 20 years, the middle high school building held more students than our entire district holds right now, so it's not necessarily on a campus. We want to make that campus the best possible place for our students.
However, you didn't give the community who requested it in both surveys prior to COVID and after COVID. Another option that would have kept the schools open and maybe turned Bennett into where we're renting or owning, I'm not sure, I have to look that one up, the PTA on the 28th and other services in Bennett and hold on to them while the rest of the communities are working on increasing our numbers of families with kids. Instead, which was something you were required to do by the state rubric of assessment and was in your letters in the news onto our newsletter over multiple years since 2018, and the Board of Education's goal to work with the communities and family and community engagement as a district-wide rubric that you guys were going to work on, and yet didn't to help bring up the numbers. So you blame the numbers on low enrollment, don't help what you're required to do in the New York State assessment, wrote it in your newsletters to the community that you were, and it was one of your Board of Education goals to do affordable housing, help with affordable housing, community engagement, and now you're closing and giving no other options. This does not sound right for me. It doesn't sound right. And I don't think I'm alone. So I think you need to think about, and also May 20th, if it doesn't pass, if Prop 2 does not pass, then I think you should do that and start working with the communities to raise the engagement.
I saw Rachel, I know.
I'm back over here. I moved really quick. And I do have questions. Okay, so my first question has to do with, you mentioned a social worker that you no longer have. Is now there one less social worker in your school system?
There was one added during COVID, and then that person actually resigned, and we did not replace them. So we
Okay.
are back to our normal staffing.
How many do you have social workers for the children in this, in,
I believe
Four?
we have 4.
so one in each school and one in each school? So you have one to handle all of those kids for high school, junior
We
high?
have social workers and psychologists in both, and we actually, our mental health staff has the lowest caseload of any district in Ulster County.
Okay, how much of the money that you spend, and I haven't had the time to look at this and I apologize, how much is going into actually expanding the children's actual education? Like I said, expanding art, are you expanding music, are you
Yes.
expanding sports, are you actually giving them more, not just because of the building, either way? Are we actually growing as a district? When we were away in the top 10 in New York State, we are not that as far as awesomeness. And we were one of the top 10. You went to school with me when we were there. We were one of the top 10 schools, one of the top 10 public educational schools in the state. Okay, the next, so you have no answer, and I'll be quick. Why, I noticed and I was told that the children are to be in the building while you're constructing, and we're talking about asbestos in the building. I was there for that too. And I also want to
Can I
know,
answer that?
yeah,
So they will be in the building during the school year. Asbestos abatement will not take place while they are in the building. That will take place during the summers. And the construction that will happen while they're in the building will be on the outer edges. If you look at the plans we have, it's on the outer edges, so it can be completely separated from them.
including construction debris and dust.
Yes.
So Rachel,
Okay, next question, union contract.
You've had 2 minutes.
Next.
Are you union contracting or just whoever wants?
Next, lowest bidder.
This is really important to our community.
I know, but
It's
not the week before.
It's always
Right.
all about non-transparency. There.
No, although you're,
really important to the community.
yeah, I think your hand was up.
I'm
next.
really
That's why I think
Yeah,
that was-
yeah.
always reach out.
I just, say who you want.
My name is Journey Orelbowski. I'm a teacher right now at BOCES, also a substitute. I'm going to get my master's for special education. I just would like to know also, what affiliates are you guys from, with all due respect? I'm sorry, I can't like your education system or your.
I'm the superintendent.
Okay, very good to meet you, very good to meet you. Okay, what is the asset of centralizing the community, right now? What is the two basic things?
Two basic things?
Yes.
Oh, well, the most important thing is to be able to provide equitable, robust programming for our entire district. So being someone who is involved in special education, you would understand right now with our enrollment, we have special education programs in our 2 elementary buildings. They are not the same programs because we do not have the population to duplicate those programs in both spaces. So if a student in one building requires the services being delivered in another building, they have to be moved out of their home school into another building to access that program.
Yeah.
If we have everyone together, we can have the full continuum of special education programs and services in one location, and they will remain with their peers in a more robust setting.
That's very, excellent asset and a robust, conclusion or observation. However, I work for Top C Transitional Occupation Special Education. They come out of the autistic school for a couple hours per day. I have them. They are learning adaptability by doing this, which is also very robust as well. I won't take any more of your time, but they definitely need a lot more. This is kind of a side note, but they definitely need a lot more help with the special education system. I don't know what the problem is dealing with them in Woodstock and or Bennett and keeping programs, art, music. I don't know why everyone's taking it away. We should focus more on that.
Yeah, you'll be next, sir.
This will be fast. It's just basically one topic. When you said turf, did you actually mean AstroTurf?
There are new versions of turf and our architects will be presenting before we actually invest in anything, but a version of artificial turf, yeah.
So it's basically artificial, it's basically plastic.
There are new, more scientifically innovative versions of that, so.
State of the art.
They are.
What?
Yeah, but it's like you're replacing natural grass where it's actually been shown that maybe not Astro, the brand turf, but the plastic turf, you got microplastics. Hotter when the weather is hotter by far than natural turf. And that, especially for the small kids, could be a problem. Especially football players, when it's a little wet, a little snowy, more slips and falls on artificial turf than natural. And of course, they also have to use different kind of cleats and therefore more injuries, etc. I think it's a bad idea.
Thank you, please. Thank you, sir. And your name?
Martin Haber. I'm a Woodstock resident. I've been a teacher for over 30 years back in New York City. I sub at Ontario a lot. But I live over in Vandale. I don't understand why anyone would want another empty school building in terms of living near it. I mean, I don't have school-age children anymore, but in terms of real estate, in terms of the whole feeling of Woodstock, it just bums me out in such a big way. I go over, I walk my dog over at where West Hurley was. I walk my dog over where Xena, now Lineman Institute, where Xena School was. It's depressing. Who wants to move when you're a young family? You want to move to a place where there are families and children. You don't want to go where there are shells of buildings. I've worked inside Woodstock Elementary. I found it to be a lovely, welcoming staff, and the students are so beautiful. All the schools, I must say, you know, thanks to you guys. I think it's great, but why ruin something like that? It's just wrong, and it feels wrong. It feels like you're robbing Woodstock of its real heart, when you take an elementary school like that away, especially right on 375. I mean, I go by it hundreds of times. And so many people come up here and they go on that route, they're gonna see this beautiful place gone. No play, that beautiful playground, everything that makes Woodstock, Woodstock. You know, it's gonna be gone like the other schools are gone already. And those places are like ghost towns around those schools.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, so we had, you, sir, I think I saw you next. Good, I think I saw your hand up next. Okay, your name?
Dave Kidd.
You have to go over by the microphone if you're gonna.
Yeah, that's the mic over there.
3 minutes or 2 minutes?
Yeah, you get 2 minutes.
I'm coming from school of Michael Paycut. Does anybody remember Michael Paycut? Nobody. Okay, I'm coming from bipolar disorder right now, I'm hypomanic, and I'll probably regret this in a few days. Maybe not. Last meeting, one of the last meetings, and Jeremy said, I said, it's like rearranging deck chairs on Titanic, and he said, you know, basically, I went to Edgemont. My mom, I was Dave Kidd, I was Miss Kidd's son down the hall. Oh, Miss Kidd with my fourth grade, he's bored. So basically, we're suffering from the money, pleasure, sex disease. We must have more money, get more knowledge, more knowledge, get more pleasure. We're going to need real contentment. And I think the school should be a resiliency center for everyone. Suppose an X-class solar flare that happened since 1869. We're overdue for Carrington to zap out all our. How many people have their numbers of all their loved ones on paper and pencil? The best thing for input and export is a good pencil with a real good eraser. Live simply, they simply live.
So I'm gonna let Laurie Osmond talk, and Laurie, you'll be the last person. Oh, I see.
Yeah, mine has to stand up.
It should be questions, not. Yeah, so we have a public hearing.
So I do have a question. Let me get to it. So as some of you know, I was on the school board, and when I was on the board, there were tens of thousands of dollars in district money spent in consultants. Dr. Bachman, who worked in the district for over 6 months, Dr. Christensen. Sorry. Okay, there were tens of thousands of dollars spent on consultants. Dr. Bachman, Dr. Christensen, for at least Bachman was in the district for at least 6 months. Christensen did work as well, and overwhelmingly, they held exhaustive stakeholder meetings, and they found that the sort of source, or we had conversations about how Monticello had a dental office in one of their closed buildings. And so the overwhelming consensus after all of that money was spent on these surveys was that the public wanted to keep Woodstock and Phoenicia open. And many years before these consultants did their work, as a board officer, I was told by the administration that the goal was to centralize and close Woodstock and Phoenicia. And so it seems to me, and my question is, it seems to me that all along there has been a very disingenuous kind of cherry picking of the facts and spin and ignoring inconvenient truths. And there never has been a serious consideration of what the public wanted and what kind of plan B could be. And so my question to you is, how seriously have you actually come up with an alternative? Because it really feels in both your language and in your actions as if you are just ramming it through.
I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry about my feelings.
The answer really is that's up to the school board. You know, we work directly with the school board, but the school board did pass this resolution in May of 2023. We have been working to implement it as they basically set the path for us. So
Yeah, and they are reformed.
And that's really important.
So, okay, so we've had a bunch of, I always have some hands up. I think people will be available afterwards, and I might put your hands up. So sorry, but anyway, I did want to entertain some conversation, and, oh, yeah. Wait,
It's a question.
Just
anyway, you can do public be heard. I'll let you, so. But be publicly heard if you'd like.
I'll ask
So,
you a
anyway,
question, I'll ask.
You're not on here.
so.
Rachel, Rachel,
So-
you haven't signed up.
So, okay. But I do want to thank very much the, and the group.
Rachel.
I want to thank this is, right, Vice President, because your job is very difficult.
That's it.
You clearly care about the children. You do a great job. It's very thoughtful. And, as people probably want to remember, is you work with the school board. The school board has just said, made a decision, and you are doing your best to implement a decision that the school board has made. So the closure of the school is a school board decision, and you are implementers, of that. So thank you for the careful way that you're going back doing that.
Thank you.
So we'll move into the publicly heard part of the meeting. I think, John Ludwig.
Did Barrett leave?
You had to go.
Is Maria-Elena still on?
Yeah, so, yeah, he
We
now
don't
has.
have a forum.
Well,
on.
no, but we're gonna continue this.
We'll do publicly heard and be done because there's gonna be no action.
So,
There's one for good also.
for publicly heard and John Ludwig, your 3 minutes starts now.
Thank you. As you know, I've spoken on this issue before. I've been tracking the budget, the annual financial report numbers for Woodstock for the last 10 years. And I tracked 4 numbers especially, and I handed out a chart here that has these 4 numbers on it. Revenue, tax, total revenue, and then tax revenue and expenditures. And then the unassigned fund balance, which is the surplus, that's what's left over at the end. In 2024, the numbers just came in a week or 2 ago. And the surplus was 3.2 million for 2024. And that was an increase of 1.2 million from 2023. That is a big increase. I looked at what went into the $1.2 million increase. And it was a number of things, but I'll point out some of them. Interest and earnings was $116,000. And I think, there's about 5 million in capital funds, and I think they've invested better and gotten a better interest rate. So we sort of expect that, but that's a good increase of $116,000 in revenue. Public safety permits, an increase of 125,000. I haven't looked into that. And then building permits, an increase of 170,000. So those 3 items together made up over $400,000 in revenue for 2024. The property taxes were raised 132,000. So that's only a third. My point here, of course, is that it wasn't necessary to raise property taxes. About a third of the revenue increases I just mentioned is an increase in property taxes. I spoke last November at the public hearing for the budget, and I pointed this out that you were increasing taxes for 2025 $200,000, and I pointed out that shouldn't be necessary because of these surpluses you have every year. Bill gave 2 explanations. First, he said tax cap, which I think means you can't pass up an opportunity to raise taxes because next year you might have to when you have a tax cap. But the tax cap can be exceeded. We all know that. And the other explanation Bill gave was capital projects. You don't have to borrow money if you have a lot put away. And to that I say, you're asking the residents to borrow money because most everybody has some debt. And when you increase taxes, you're asking us to increase our debt and the money to you.
Yeah, you got 5 seconds left.
Thank you. And we don't get the same good interest rates that the town gets. So please think about that when you budget here. I think it's probably not necessary to increase taxes for 2022.
Okay, thank you, John.
This might get me.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Bryant. I am a Happy Woodstock owner. I'm very tired. I'll try to keep it brief. You've seen me before. I've been speaking out on behalf of keeping Woodstock Elementary for the past 2 years, and I've changed my mind, and I just wanted to share with my neighbors and my community why I changed my mind. I don't take it lightly. Nobody wants to see Woodstock Elementary close. But after going to board meetings and board meetings and board meetings and listening to the board meetings and going to the sharing sessions, I heard over and over again, special education is at the legal requirement, and we need to do more. We need to do more for the students from Southwest Hurley to Pine Hill and Woodstock included. God forbid your child needs services. You've got dyslexia, you've got speech pathology, you got something, and you can't co-teach with your specialist. That's what centralization will do. Add to it the whole harmless aid. I firmly believe in equitable public education. And if we are getting too much of the pie because of our property wealth, and Kingston needs to get more, and Newburgh needs to get more, and all these other places in the great state of New York that are being underserved while we are being overfunded, they need to get more. And that was not in the mix. And that is what shifted me. I'm here for all students. I'm here for centralization. If you want to talk to me about it, I'm happy to share with you my experience. I do not take this lightly. I respect this community's activism. And I pray that that building can turn into affordable housing so we can have artists back in Woodstock. Thank you for your time.
Michael.
Well, this is like a perfect storm for this town. We're cutting the legs out from under the traditional economic engine, the job creator here. We're talking about how we need young families to move here. We're going to lose the people that volunteer for our services because we need young families to transplant here. If we close our elementary school, we're making it, this town is expensive as it is. We're not providing starter homes for young people to come in. You close that school, it's like the end of this. It's like you want to turn it into a bedroom community and let the real estate industry have its way, and then it's over, and there's no community left. This is not helpful. So I think that there needs to be a way to rework some of the ways that this operating budget works so that the students are given the services that they need in a few more locations, rather than, because one last thing before I go, another New York Times article came out. So many of them have driven trends in this town. And it talked about how they've already figured out that they've got like 85,000 homes, most likely to be lost along the South Shore of New York in the next 15 years. That we know there's another wave of transplants coming here. We know it. So for closing our school, it's not like this plan may have made sense when it was first conceived, and like a decade ago or however long, but now the evidence is showing that we're going to be moving in the other direction. We want families that will have school-age children to be here, and we had the best school in like the county for sure in that elementary school. So I think that needs to be thought about, and I'm sorry that I didn't get to say it to the superintendent, but thanks.
Rachel Marco.
Rachel Marco Havens. I agree. I want to say that we're in a situation where if we don't start to distribute the funds into the places where they're needed, then we end up in these situations where we have to like consolidate it all into one building. Oh, suddenly we need to put a project in the parking lot across from the Colony. We don't want a project. People want to live spread throughout our community. Which brings me back to the fact that today was supposed to be a noise ordinance hearing. It is not. I sent a letter to everyone on the town board, 2 letters to the town board, the task force, and also the Woodstock Chamber of Commerce board, which I am one of the co-presidents of. I only heard back from Laura on the one that I asked for your response. Thank you so much for responding. because I didn't get a return receipt and there's only two of you right now. This is the letter that I.
is still online.
Maria-Elena, thank you, Maria-Elena, hi. So this is the letter that I wrote to you the other day that I was going to hand to everyone on the board, but they're not here. You did respond to it. This is the letter that I wrote yet 2 days ago. This is a letter with 97 people want to sign on to it, but it was written in 2024. This is all related to the soundboard here. There are people working their buns off, volunteering to actually handle passable laws that have been overlooked. There is information here so that you can see how we conduct meetings. We support people in actually coming in a good way to that meeting and coming here to it in a good way to that meeting. So I just want you to have this right now, Laura. Because I know that you sort of got sloughed off the tube, you got the sound ordinances and then they're back, but nobody gets to do anything with it, you're just supposed to talk to people, so. Please look at that between now and June. The town is freaking out and it is actually directly related to the school story, it's directly related to the STR story. The sound of gentrification is silence.
You're up.
Still David Kidd, and we're compelled to talk about the school board, although I want to talk about bicycle safety, motorcycle safety, and guinea fowl. Guinea fowl are these loud birds that eat ticks voraciously, and if we could just wrap our heads around, maybe have little flocks of guinea fowl around town, little cars down. The noise ordinance would go out the window because they're really loud. You can't quiet the guinea fowl. We have eggs for everybody. And what else? I believe Pete's has a few of them in his house, and we start it right away. See what happens.
Sarah, you not, oh, you still going, David?
Yeah.
Oh,
How many minutes do I have?
2 minutes.
Okay. As for school, I guess that takes it out. What else stuff you know, what else? Take care of the tick population. Beyond the rainbow here is a school just to teach enough people how to food, clothing, and shelter, how to drive food, clothing, and shelter. Simple, and this is Woodstock, can you cook, can you sew? That's not what I want to know here on the inside. Live simple, those can simply live.
Sarah, you not?
Hi. I just wanted to echo what my neighbor said. That's really upsetting to hear that we don't have a voice in whether or not our elementary school is going to close, especially after receiving these letters and spending all this time talking about just that. It's incensing actually, because Woodstock Elementary is the reason I planted myself here in this town after really careful consideration and a lot of research, and walking in that door, it's true, peace, love, and learning. That's what you see on the billboard. It's not what you see on Route 28. Because on Route 28, it took me, I don't know, 2 years of talking to those board members and others who have passed on to do other things now, just to get it to say, celebrate Black history in the middle of the shortest month of the year. That's how long it took. So you want to think that there's anything personalized, anything more than they are now, you are mistaken. Because we wasted a hell of a lot of money having Mary Stephanie Corsones as a placeholder during that consultation period in our district. Well, she's just a placeholder now in Victoria's home district, which is Kingston. So I don't want to look like Kingston, or I would have been there. We are not. This is Woodstock. Scott Richards is about the best principal of any school you could find. You feel it. They have their little owl store. They work for it. There is nothing better than having Broccoli Bob on his tricycle and the Try It Tuesday ladies. I was one of them. Levon Helm gave us that garden. What's going to happen? But I know it was land grab. So when we're talking about everything fitting together, it sure the hell does, right? zoning, housing, all that stuff, it's real. It was a land grab during COVID darkness, and we talked about it then, so it's really good to know from Lori, who, the last time we spoke about our Board of Education, she lost her job the next day. Isn't that interesting too? Because that's real. But it's very heartbreaking, and that's where we have waste, fraud, and abuse. Right up top, when everybody came right on back, because Victoria did leave her position, right? If you all remember, she left her position in resignation, and then we had a consultant, and we had Mary Stephanie in there at a grand a day, or grand a day,
10 seconds.
whatever, a grand a day, but after she left, all the girls came back with raises and their buddies, and then we have people who are on that board making up their own damn vocabulary words. So that's who's running the show, it should be us. And we shouldn't be, there should be no waste, fraud, and abuse with, I don't know, those mailings. They should know what they're doing.
Thank you. Good. Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Maria-Elena still there?
She said aye.
Yay.